So we've got people, hey Jen, we've got people that are tuning in from all over the place, not just right here live in our chat. But you guys, we've got a VIP, and I'm very excited that we've got one of the power women here, Karen Cooper. She has been a legacy in real estate. She owns and operates one of the largest, if not, Karen, I would maybe even venture to say, what is it, the largest women's real estate team? I mean, would you almost say
I don't know.
probably,
Yeah, I don't know any others that are bigger than ours.
right? So
Yeah.
you've got how many women on your real estate team?
We are a team of 36 women and moms.
36 women and moms. And she is in Virginia, right? Outside of the DC area.
Yeah, we're in Northern Virginia. We are all part of that. We serve that whole DC metro area. So Northern Virginia, parts of Maryland, West Virginia, DC, the whole thing.
Love it. Love, love, love it. And she is also the admin. She's got the largest Facebook group, I would say, of women empowering women in real estate. So I've been pretty plugged into that group ever since I heard about it, which has only been probably like a few months ago. And what I love in that group is that it is just women being super transparent. We've got women who are brand new to the business, just got their license inked, and then you've got experienced women. And what I love about the culture that you've fostered in there is it's women helping women.
Yep.
And so we are really on, coming off the heels of empowering of Women's History Month. And it's very important to you and I, Karen, because we've spoken quite a bit about the importance of women in real estate, empowering women in the workforce. And so I just wanted to bring to light the conversation that we've had and kind of carry it and continue it, because I think that a lot of women need to hear and need to maybe even be given permission to 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 go for it and not to feel like they've got to hold themselves back. So having said all of that, let's just kind of go ahead and get started. What is your story, Karen? I mean, when you've been in real estate now for
19
19
years.
years.
Yeah.
What did you do before that?
Yeah.
Give us kind of your whole your little life story, as well as your home life structure and your business structure.
Sure. Boy, nobody's asked me about life before real estate, so that's kind of fun. So I live in a very tiny little town called Lovettsville in Virginia. It's a town of about 2,500 people. Born and raised here. My family goes back to some of the original settlers here from Germany about 300 years ago. So I'm very passionate about where I come from, a very small little area. And, before real estate, I wouldn't say I did anything that was terribly exciting. I went to college like a lot of people. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, never in sales. I worked in marketing, market research, project management. I actually finished my bachelor's degree while I was going to school full time and while I was also volunteering as an emergency medical technician. I did that for 10 years in my town.
Wow.
Loved that. That was one of the really interesting periods of my life. My husband and I connected there. I have been married to a career firefighter for 19 years. We have 3 sons who are 16, 14, and 11. A very busy household with, lots of kids, dogs, cats, the whole thing. I came to real estate 19 years ago when I was getting laid off in my job in the pharmaceutical industry. My area is really not the hub of the pharmaceutical world. And I had the opportunity to take a job somewhere else, but you just heard my background. I've lived here forever. My family has been here forever. I was not going to move to New Jersey to continue in this career. So if I wasn't going to go, I had to find something else to do. And it just so happened, and of course, nothing's an accident, we know, but it just so happened that my then fiance and I, now husband, were buying a home for sale by owner. We were actually buying the home next door to his parents. It just kind of happened. And I happened to be, so then I was like, oh, well, maybe I can sell my home. I owned a house and I listed it for sale by owner. And I was the person who was walking everybody through the process. Like, I got the contract from the title company. I was explaining everything to everybody. This was back before the internet was really a thing. So I'm online trying to find comps and I'm looking in the newspaper. And so, a few months later, when I realized I need to do something else, I was like, well, you know what? What about that real estate thing? Like, that seemed kind of fun. And so I got my license. I joined a rainmaker team, and it's, sort of history in the making. I like to say that I have held every position that there is in the real estate industry. So I started out on that rainmaker team, which was a fabulous place to learn, a great foundation to my career, but not really a place that you can typically stay. I mean, I think with teams of that kind of structure, it's hard to stay long term. I've been an individual agent. I have been a managing broker. I did that for a period of time. And then now I am a team leader, team owner with my business partner. And this is our 6th year in business. Last year, our team of 36 amazing women, moms, and even a couple grandmoms served 525 families with their real estate needs last year. And this year we hope to do even more. So that's kind of the history of that. As far where empowering women in real estate kind of comes into play is I've always been very passionate about women being able to achieve their goals, being able to, I think, and you sort of alluded to it, it's sort of what the lead in is, we feel like we have to play small. And especially if you're a mom and you're raising children, that's hard enough in and of itself. And then doing that and trying to have a career and doing all of these things. And so I think sometimes we feel like we can't. And I didn't want that. And I knew I didn't want that for myself. And I found myself at a point in my career where I was feeling kind of lonely. And that's something that I noticed particularly in my industry. And I think it probably happens with women in other industries as well. But there's just this feeling of isolation. No one else understands what you do. Our family members don't understand what we do. My mom would call me every day when I started and she'd say, did you sell a house today? And I'm like, Mom, like that's not how this works. Like, it doesn't work that way. So nobody understands. And when you're in an office, you kind of feel like you have to kind of keep things close to the vest and you can't share. And so that's really how Empowering Women in Real Estate started. And I founded that group 7 years ago. We have now grown to over 25,000 women all across the US and Canada, even in some places across the world. It has grown into a podcast, Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast, as well as a business with my coaching program. So that is sort of my history in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing, I mean, you're just busy, very busy, and you just seize opportunity. I love
Yeah.
it. So your family life, you've got your 3 kids, and if I did the math right, you started in real estate before you even had kids.
That's right.
So your husband, he has been a career firefighter for your whole time.
Yep.
So my understanding of the way firefighter life is that they're gone for like days at a time, and then they're home for days at a time, right?
Yep.
Um, and then you've got your 3 boys. So what, I mean, I have so many questions, but what would you say makes things work, and what challenges do you
Yeah.
think maybe you've had, if we're just being completely transparent? You have permission to be as transparent as you want to be.
Yeah.
What challenges and dynamics have gone on in your marriage with
Yeah.
regards to your husband, whether or not he has supported or not supported, or what have been some things that have been able to make you empower you to do what all you do?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I'm not saying anything that he wouldn't say, the first many year, we got married a couple of months after I started in my career. The first, 6-ish years of my career, I was working on that rainmaker team, and, your split is really low. And so it works on volume, and I was doing massive amounts of volume, 50 and 60 transactions a year. And then I started having babies, and he's on shift work, and it was hard. I was, he would tell you I was on the phone all the time. I carried the special lead phone that, we had back then, and, plus my phone, and then late at night after the kids went to bed, I'm back on the computer, and it was hard. It was really, really hard for many years. And particularly in the beginning, when you're getting started in this industry, there is very much a sacrifice that has to take place. I am all about boundaries. I talk about boundaries all the time. I talk about organizing and time management, and, saying no and giving yourself time off. But in the beginning, really none of that applies, because in order to get your business started, and this with your business, you have to do so much. You have to take every opportunity. You have to seize every opportunity. I would drive an hour and a half for a showing. I mean, you did everything that you had to do to get that ball rolling, right? And so that was hard. That was certainly really difficult. From a family perspective, from a marriage perspective, having young kids, it was tough. It was really tough. And especially not understanding, having a spouse who comes from a very different line of work, who, gets the paycheck every 2 weeks, to, I maybe get a paycheck every week, or I maybe get a paycheck every other month. So, you just don't know. And so it definitely a lot of learning that took place. And I'm happy to say we've really kind of evolved and grown from there. And I couldn't do what I do without his support, for sure.
Has he always supported you?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. There were periods of time where it was hard, and, he certainly would say he probably hated my job, but it was necessary. Where we live, public servants don't make a lot of money, and it's very expensive here. And so I had to work. There was no choice in that matter. Real estate can be a very lucrative career if you can work it right. And so that was always recognized. He's always supported my business, but hasn't always been happy about it.
Yeah. I think, I think one of the things with women working, and women who really do want to, be all that they can be and achieve the success that they, and reach their potential that they have, one of the first things that has to happen is they've got to choose a life partner that is secure enough with themselves in order to allow that, I don't use the word allow very, I don't like that word allow, because it's not so much about permission, right? Whatever. But but it needs to be someone who's going to, who is going to support and foster, right? Foster that. So, I think there is.
Yeah, it's hard. And I mean, especially, one of the things that we've always dealt with, and I think anybody who's in this kind of line of work understands, is even though I may be the breadwinner in the family, there's a certain amount of flexibility in my job, and it's just kind of assumed or understood, this kid needs to go to the doctor, or that one has to get picked up from school, that, I'm the one that's going to have to do it. Right. Well, but when I'm the one who's doing all of that, then that means the work is not happening, which affects the income and affects the, so there is definitely a push pull that happens there. Even with the most supportive spouses, there is it can take years to really fully understand that, wow, okay, she's working from home, or she has this flexibility, but it's still work. That doesn't mean that I can just run out and, do whatever.
So what kind of leverage do you have in place at home? What kind of domestic help do you have, or have you had?
Yeah, so it has evolved. At times I just had my parents, when my kids were little, they would help. I had an au pair. We had an au pair for a while, which was a really nice situation, honestly, from an affordability standpoint. But it's difficult having a stranger living in your home. And so that was, an interesting experience. What I have had the most success with is having private nannies. That we had one person who was with us for 6 years, and I probably would have figured out how to keep her even longer if I could have, if my kids weren't getting older. And she very much became a part of our family. And that gave me the flexibility that I needed, because she could help with, the kids' laundry, and she could help with picking up grocery orders, and she could, do a lot of things beyond just caring for the kids, which was great. As my kids have gotten older, it's this kind of double-edged sword, right? Because they're old enough that they don't really need a babysitter anymore, right? My oldest can drive a car, so it changes the dynamic completely. But yet, it's not necessarily where you just want to leave them home unsupervised, for massive stretches of time. I'm a big believer in leverage. I'm a big believer in help or systematizing. I'm all about the systems to make life easier and simpler. I've had times where I've had someone who's come in and helped me with laundry once a week. And I think that's probably a misconception that women have in our industry or in any other. I think sometimes the first thing we think is, oh, well, maybe I need to hire the assistant for my job. Well, no, maybe actually what you need is you need some help at home, because there's all these things that are going to have to be handled one way or the other. And so sometimes having that little bit of help at home that can take some of the pressure off is sometimes the easiest to hire, and the most effective for you.
I have to second that. Because I also have two boys who are 19 and 17. And I had we had a live-in nanny from the time my oldest was born. And her name's Hilda. She passed away. It was the most devastating thing, but she passed away 4 years ago. She lived with us and she was a part of our family. I mean, Hilda, it was not this feeling, it was never this feeling of, I'm not able to be there. So the kids are getting something. I mean, Hilda was a grandmother to them. She spoke only, my kids grew up bilingual. They grew up exposed to another culture. And to this day, I mean, Hilda is the nearest and dearest non-blood relative to my whole family. Hilda handled the cooking. She had my grocery lists ready. She handled all of the laundry. I have not done a load of laundry in probably, I don't know, 12 years. She did all of the, all of the cleaning. I mean, Hilda did all of that. So she was, to your point, she was my first leverage before anything else.
Yeah.
And so it was a wonderful experience. And so I definitely think that is that's a great point, is to not feel like you can't have help at home. And so I love that. And my kids and my husband and I would all tell you, we're all better for having had Hilda. So it was, it's a great opportunity when you can find, someone. So, and Jen Teskey, who is in Illinois, she's one of our CDREs. She says one of her biggest regrets, as someone who's been in the business for 14 years and kids are now young adults, yes, her kids are in college, was not hiring someone to help with my home.
Yeah. I think for some reason we feel this added level of, kind of guilt, or discomfort about it. My husband is always very uncomfortable about it. And, I kind of have to convince him to, when it comes to bringing in a little bit of help at home. Because I think for some reason we feel like these are things that we should be able to do, but you have to equate it. We only have so much time in the day, right? And so am I going to spend an hour doing laundry, or am I going to spend an hour prospecting, or am I going to spend an hour hanging out with my kids, right? Like, what is the best use of that hour? And so we have to get to a point, I think, where we can kind of give ourselves permission that, just whether it's hiring somebody in my business or it's hiring someone in my home, that is still valuable, and it's going to allow me to do the other things that I need to do.
I love it. I love it. That is so, so you then became, I mean, you built your business, and I was watching one of your go lives. By the way, if you all are not part of her Facebook group, she's awesome. She's super transparent. She goes live and she just talks all about, how she's done things and all of her inside tips and secrets to running a real estate business. And you are you're a big in farming. That is your, that's one of, and having had a 300-year history in the community, I can only imagine. So I love that. So shifting to the professional side, right?
Yeah.
Was there ever anything that you felt that you could not achieve, or moments in your career where you thought that maybe, you know, not being a woman, so being a man would have gotten you further? Or were there ever limiting beliefs on what you felt you could achieve because you were a woman and because certain things go to men?
Yeah, I will say I'm not sure that the limiting beliefs were necessarily because I was a woman. I don't ever necessarily remember having that distinct feeling, but I definitely had a lot of limiting beliefs myself in what I could accomplish or should accomplish.
Mhm.
Um, and really, that's how I became a managing broker, because
Mm.
I basically quit because I was tired and I was exhausted and I was overwhelmed and I just didn't know my business. I was an independent agent at the time. I was 10 years in. I was doing a ton of business on my own with a very part-time assistant. And I didn't know. I didn't know how. There aren't enough resources for women in particular who tell us how to run our businesses and how to run our families and how to make it all. It is the most asked question that comes up in our Empowering Women in Real Estate group on Facebook. And I didn't know how. I didn't see any models. I didn't know how to do it. What I really needed to do at that point is I needed to build a team, but I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel prepared. I didn't feel like I had enough skills. And so when the owner of our company at the time came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm sure you're not interested." I was the top producer in the firm. "I'm sure you're not interested, but it's time for us to hire a managing broker. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yes," because in my mind I was thinking, "Oh, this is so good. This is like 9 to 5, and I'm going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and my life is going to be so much simpler." And what I learned really quickly, I was in that role for 2.5 years, is that it wasn't, and that really working for myself is the greatest gift that you can have. And I think it's the greatest gift that you can give to your family, because it's a lot of pressure, but there's a level of responsibility that you feel. There's a level of satisfaction that you feel that you cannot get when you work for someone else.
That is absolutely. And you get to, first of all, there's no limit. That's one of the things that I love about real estate is there is no ceiling on opportunity and success, right?
Yeah.
Um and and it is also, you when you work for someone else, you absolutely have to clock in and clock out, and you have to think twice before you say, well, I'm going to go to Billy's baseball game or whatever, right?
I
Um,
remember distinctly, and I had only been in the role for maybe about a year. And I have always been my kids come first, like something that being at my kids' baseball games, right? Being at their events, volunteering in their classroom. That's something that I always prioritize. It's something that's very important to me. And I remember the owner of the company comes in my office one day. I've got the beautiful corner office with all the windows. And he says, "Hey, so excited. We're going to take this like VIP agent trip, blah, 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 to Florida." And it fell over the time of my youngest. And I remember coming home and just crying.
mm,
I have to go do this, but I don't want to do that. He only turns 4 once, right? Whether he's going to remember it or not, I'm going to remember it. And so I didn't go, by the way, on that trip.
mhm.
Um, and it wasn't long after that I shifted away from that. So
Um, and those are the moments that we have, right? Those are the times when we have to make those split decisions in whether or not we are going to choose work. And I'll be honest, I didn't make every single game. I didn't make every single, performance or whatever. I did the very best I could. But I wasn't able to make every single one. And I think that there's also this big, huge pressure in society where you have to go to everything. And I think that in this day and age, there's also a lot more things than there were when our moms were raising us.
mhm.
So it's, it becomes a lot. So What I started doing was when my kids were, I don't know, they were in probably like the fourth or fifth or sixth grade. I asked them, what are the most important things you want me to go to? What is the most, here are the things that we have. What are the most important to you that I go to? And, and that's kind of how I made that decision.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's huge because I mean, it's what is makes the most sense for your family, right? One of the things that makes sense for me and my family is I prioritize having dinner together as a family, right? Which is hard, especially when you're in a job where you're out evenings on listing appointments or you've got kids with activities. So my priority was as many nights as possible being together for dinner, but not necessarily like I don't need to be the one that brings the dinner to the table, right? The priority was sitting there, not necessarily being the one who cooks it. Now, for other families, that act of cooking the meal together might be what's most important. So it's finding what speaks to you and what speaks to your family. And I love that you would ask your sons, what was important to them for you to be there, because then they feel seen and they feel heard and they feel loved and appreciated. And that's really what we all want.
it is. And, and I will say, to that point, one of the, aside from Hilda, and now that my kids are older, one of the best pieces of leverage that I should have done a long time ago, and I didn't do, is having a personal chef. And that sounds a little bougie. I get it. But I am not a good cook. I have tried to cook and my family doesn't eat what I make. Um, and I mean, after Hilda left, like there's been about 4 or 5 years there where I literally like would sit down on a Saturday or a Sunday. I would come up with what all the menu or whatever. I've tried all of the Blue Apron, the Hello Fresh, all that stuff. I've created these long lists of groceries. I go to the store, I spend $300, $400, $500, $600, whatever at the store, come home. And then, I make dinner and the kids are walking through the front door with Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And then it's time, Sunday morning, the next week to go to the grocery store again. And I have to open up my fridge and like throw out all the food that went bad
Right.
and do it all over again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is like literally just my kids don't want to eat what I want to eat. My husband wants to eat something different, whatever. So last year we got a personal chef who he knows what we like. He knows all of our whatever. And he literally just makes all Mondays and Thursdays. He comes and he makes us food for the whole entire week. And I can't believe how much time it has bought me, how much frustration. I would literally like want to wring my kid's neck because I have made all this food. Children are
Yeah.
starving in Africa, the whole thing. And it was just such a point of like tension for us.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't want to eat. So anyway, I want to throw that out there that you don't have to be the one who is cooking, who's making and slaving over the stove and whatever. And mathematically, it's worked out. I think I'm probably saving money, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. For sure.
yeah.
Well, I think there's this feeling, and I don't know if it was this for you, but there's that traditional role, right? And I think as women, and I don't know if it's just my age or like there's this feeling like like we're straddling the traditional roles of you make the dinner and you do this and you do that and so sometimes we try to put ourselves in that box, right? Just like you were making the list and doing all the things, and it really wasn't what was important to your family, and it really didn't. It was a source of frustration. And so I think giving ourselves as women permission to understand, okay, what is really important to my family? What I don't want is my kids, their memory of their mom when they're growing up is her mad because I didn't eat the dinner when all I wanted was Chick-fil-A. Or am I going to remember that, we sat around and we chit-chatted while we all ate what we wanted? Like, what's most important?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's funny is that now, and all their friends come over, and so they all the friends show up on Mondays and Thursdays because they know that's when Chef brings all of his new stuff. They come over, they're all like, my kids are now opening up the refrigerator, they're like heating up all this stuff and fixing plates for all their friends. And now like my kitchen is just this big, huge social place because everybody's eating what they want to eat. And
That's right.
I'm happy. I'm not mad, and it's not like this, whatever. So
I love
so anyway, I think that I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. So when it comes to back to kind of the work aspect of it,
that.
um, what would you say are the top challenges that women face? Because you are this is what you do. You live
Yep.
and breathe mentoring women, empowering women. What would you say are the top three challenges that women face in our industry?
Yeah. So I would say that probably one of the biggest challenges is a lot of what we've been talking about right now, which is this feeling of having to do it all or having to do all of it ourselves, right? That
Yeah.
pressure. And then if we can't do it all, well, then I'm going to have my business slide because I can't, make the dinner every night or whatever. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we sort of fall prey to. Is just not feeling like we have to do it all, and a kind of a fear of hiring, like Jen mentioned in the chat, like, wishing she'd hired, leveraged hiring help before. It's hard to let go. I always say I'm a recovering control freak because it's hard to let go of some of these things and get help. But really, that's a challenge, and that's what's holding us back. The,
Mhm.
the second one that I see, and I see this with women, whether they're new in the industry, brand new, or, like me, almost 20 years in, is mindset.
Mm.
And having, there's a fascinating book called Carol Dweck, and it's about mindset. And you either have a growth mindset or you don't. And and the people who don't have a growth mindset tend to have this feeling is that there's a limited amount of anything to go around, right? There's a limited amount, but it's really not true. There's opportunity in abundance, and there is more than enough homes to sell, and there's more than enough clients to find. And our mindset kind of talks us out of it. I see it with women all the time. On my team, a lot of times an agent will text me a question, and my response a lot of the time is hashtag overthinking. Like that's my thing, because we feel this like they don't want to hear from me, or I don't want to, I'm sure they don't want me to bother them, and and so we kind of talk ourselves out of opportunities because we have this mindset of lack, or there's not enough, or I'm not enough. And that is I think one of the things that it for sure holds us back. I've struggled with it myself
Mhm.
at various points. Still to this day, I think we all struggle with it. And then I would say the last thing is not having communities to plug into, like yours, like mine. There is this feeling, and whether it's an old school or what, there's this feeling of you don't want to tell everybody, right? Like Laurel, you're so open. You met with my team of sharing, right, of the things that you have learned, and I do the same. And um, like there's this feeling that you can't tell, don't tell your secrets, and don't. But the truth of the matter is, I could tell you, and I could lay, and I do this actually. This is part of what I was my coaching program. I could lay out for you step by step, like this is what you need to do. Even if you do it exactly the way I do it, it's not going to be the same because it's going to be in your voice and it's going to be in your way. And I think the fear of that keeps women from connecting, and they struggle to find these groups where they can feel supported and support each other. So those are kind of my long-winded three three big hurdles.
That's a perfect segue into I want to talk about the friend thing, and I want to talk about surrounding yourself, who you surround yourself with. So there is plugging into communities like such as yours.
Yep.
And over the years, I think that I have found, in fact, I was just talking to one of my kids' friends. I've known her since she was 2 years old. She grew up with my kids, and she's now 20. And she is really outgrowing a lot of her friends, and she's struggling with it. And I think that there is this thing that happens when we grow, where we grow out, we sort of outgrow people. And there become these reckoning moments where we have to decide whether or not I'm going to continue to maintain a friendship just because we've always had a friendship, but this person is, for whatever reason, holding me back. I don't feel like I'm being supported, or I don't feel like I have to defend myself a lot, or I feel like, they don't really quite get stuff. And we also have a finite amount of time in a day. And we have to choose very wisely where we spend our time and with whom we spend our time. So has that been something that you see or that you experienced as well?
Yeah. We're constantly, in my opinion, if you're doing it right, we're constantly growing, right? And we're outgrowing people, and we're outgrowing places. Sometimes we're outgrowing family, and it can be really difficult. I myself, I say that I'm sort of the black sheep in my family because they don't understand me. In my family, you had your job that you had for 30 years, and you went to work and you came home, and like, they don't understand the, kind of entrepreneurial journey, right? And not many people do. And so I've certainly experienced that quite a bit. It's really hard. I was listening to another book that I love, is The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, which I am on like my third listen. I like to listen to it. So I listen to it. I have a little Alexa, a little dot, Echo Dot in my bathroom. So every morning when I'm getting ready, I'm listening to something. And that's kind of part of it, right? Like, even if your immediate circle doesn't understand you, or is, you feel like they're kind of holding you back, you need to be consciously pumping in good stuff. And I am consciously, first thing when I get up in the morning, when I'm doing my, my little chores, my little routine, I'm listening to a podcast. I'm listening to something that's going to kind of fill me up. Even if these people aren't right in front of me, I'm exposing myself. I'm keeping my circle with people who are growing, people who are where I want to go. When I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm listening to audiobooks. The last thing I do at night before I go to bed is I read, a chapter of a book. So even if you're struggling with the people right around you, until you find those kind of next level people, or the people who are going where you're going, there's so many resources and mentors that you can find, that you can plug into yourself and fill yourself up with this, that can kind of help you to move to that next level.
I love it. One of the things that you said recently, which I love, is you gave yourself permission not to finish a book.
Yes.
Right? How many times? I mean, I feel like it's like my 6th grade, like history teacher. You have to finish this, but like, I'm not writing a book report on it. I'm not taking a test on it.
Yeah. It's like my OCD, prevents me. Like, I have this feeling, like, it's like the good girl in me, right? Is like, oh, I need to finish this book. Well, then the problem is, if I'm not enjoying the book, I'm not going to pick it up, and then I'm never going to finish it. And then I'm never going to read anything else. So this was kind of like an aha that I had, a couple of years ago, is, what, if this is not working for me, then I'll either put it aside and I'll pick it up again another time, or I'll try it on Audible. That's often a fix for me. If the content's good, but I just am struggling to read it, or I'll just pass it on to somebody else, and all is well.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just, you get 1 or 2 nuggets out of a book. And sometimes that happens in the first couple chapters.
Yeah.
But then when I'm like reading and rereading and rereading the same thing over and over and over again, and my mind is like 10 miles away, it's like, this isn't working for me anymore. So there you go, Jen Teskey, you have permission to not finish books. Jen Teskey's got the most amazing shoe collection of anyone that I know, aside from Mel DeMarco's. Monica Samuels wants to know, what was the name of the book that you referred to a while back, not the 10X. You were
Uh,
talking about a book before.
yeah, it's called Mindset. I think the book is actually just called Mindset. The author is Carol Dweck, Dweck. And it's one of those that I never read the whole book, but I got a couple nuggets early on, and that was all I needed. So it's a good book about.
Because of you, I got 10X on Audible because you said that Grant Cardone himself read it. And my problem with Audible is that they are these monotone librarian types that read stuff. I'm like, dude, you're putting me to sleep. I can't even. So when you said that Grant Cardone did it, so now when I get my lashes done, and I'm laying there for an hour, I'm listening to Grant Cardone, like fire me
That's
up.
awesome. I love it.
I'm like fist pumping and my lash curl's like, what's going on? So I love it. What is your self-care routine? Like, so there, and I kind of break that up into two sections. One is daily. Like, what do you do on the daily? To manage and balance and take care of yourself.
Yep.
And then, just overall, maybe it's vacations, maybe it's whatever that is. What is your self-care?
Okay, so I learned, and I wish I had learned this when my kids were smaller, but I learned, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the power of the morning routine. And I call it my quiet time, my morning quiet time. And that is my time. And it's about 90 minutes. And it is really that is my self-care. It is my daily self-care. It is the only time when the house is quiet. It's the only time when I can kind of think a thought to myself. Because one thing I've learned about myself, and I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older or I'm just learning more about myself, is I need quiet time. I really am more kind of introverted, and I love all of my people, but there becomes a certain time like where I just, I gotta have some quiet. So in the morning, I'm up anywhere from 5:30 to 6. And I start my morning with just a little bit of morning chores, just because I just want to kind of have my most energy and I'm listening to my podcast. I do a little journaling. Right now I'm doing a little Bible devotional in the morning. And then I spend the next bit of time doing what I enjoy. So it might be reading blogs about, fashion. I subscribe to a lot of like fashion blogs. It might be blogs about, home care, scrolling Facebook. For years, I used to write. Now I schedule everything in advance, but in my group, that was my morning routine. Like that was like my therapy. Is every morning I'm at my computer typing out my post and empowering women in real estate. And I did that for a really long time. So I spend that time every day. That is my time. I've added a little yoga into that now. I really find that I enjoy that, taking that time. And then I kind of bookend it. So at the end of the day, it's that little bit of reading at the end of the day, trying to quiet myself, quiet the house, which is really hard. This with all of these boys, and having that little bit of time, kind of on a bigger picture. I learned my very first year in real estate, and this was a gift. I learned not to let my business derail my family vacations. I had a vacation plan. It was an extended family vacation. I was terrified to lose this client. I hadn't been in business for very long. And so we left late because I, wanted to show him houses. And then the whole time I'm there, I'm on the phone. And then we came home early so that I could show him houses. He never bought anything. And I learned that like I completely just ruined this vacation for myself, for my husband, for our extended family that we were with because of this. And so I have a system. I'm all about systems. I have a system. I have a process for how to like really unplug and take a vacation in real estate. I used to do it for a week a year. Now we're up to like 5, 6 weeks a year. We go to the lake for spring break. That's where we were last week. We go to the beach for 2 weeks in the summer. I love to do a Disney trip. I really love that time with my family, and we do prioritize it to make it happen. Because as the kids grow and you don't get this time back. So I try to maximize as much as I can.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. What's interesting also, and I was having a talk with some of my real estate BFFs about this topic. And it's interesting because, I think you and we really spent a lot of time early on when our kids were little, and we just somehow, some way just did it, juggled I call it the digging of the well, meaning the business, right? Where, and looking back, it's like, I remember, I remember being on vacations and being on the phone. I'm down at the beach and I'm telling like the jet ski guy to wait while I'm still on
Yep,
the phone,
yep,
whatever,
yep.
weirdness. And so, but I also think that that is what it kind of did take that. I hate to say it, but there is this, for the first few years in this business, it is brutal and it does take that.
Yeah.
What I've got some, and then I've got some other friends who decided to get out of the workforce early on when their kids were little and then plug back into the workforce later. And so what's interesting is that I think when you have invested that time when the kids are little, that yeah, it's hard, it's balls to the wall, but at the same time, you, as the kids get older, freedom and options open up.
Yes. Yes.
And life now is much, I think, much more,
Yeah.
much freer,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, and I think I kind of mentioned this in the beginning is, those first couple of years, I talk about it as expansion and contraction. In the beginning of your career, you very much spend those first couple of years like expanding, meeting as many people as possible, going on as many appointments as possible, driving. I would drive all over, everywhere, go anywhere. You almost have to do it in order to get that ball rolling. But then as it starts rolling, you start to contract. And what I mean by that is, what I would do is, then at a certain time, I would no longer work with rentals at a certain renters out of a certain area, right? I'm contracting. I would refer them out to other people. And then I would no longer work in this particular area, and I would refer out to other people. And then I would only focus on listings, and then I would refer my buyers out. And so, like, my business was actually better for it, and my business continued to grow and thrive, but I didn't have to do every deal myself. And that kind of goes back to that control thing we were talking about before, and leveraging. You can generate opportunities, but that doesn't mean you have to do all of them. I can make a wonderful referral fee by passing that client on and having them being really well taken care of by a colleague instead.
I love that. Love, love, love it. So as you lead this team of 36 women, I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Did you purposefully make it a team of women, or did it just, by this point, a man's gonna feel like whatever? So
We we had a man once, but he was in a staff position. He was our videographer. Our first hire actually was nearly a man, a very dear friend who we offered a position to come and join us. And he didn't. But yeah, you're right. I mean, at this point, we've grown to such a degree that I, I don't know the man would be. We have these lunch and learns. We have these events a couple of times a year where we share about our team and we invite people to come and learn, and then they can apply to join us if they wish. And occasionally we've had a man who signed up, but they've never shown up. So I don't know.
So what would you say are probably the biggest leadership moments that you've had with your team, and what type of leadership did they seek out, and what works, and what are the challenges that they've got
Yeah.
from a leadership
So
standpoint?
so I think that as a leader, I'm learning constantly, and the things that I know now, there's no way I could have known them when we started this team 6 years ago. And when we started 6 years ago, my business partner and I were both in full-time production. I am no longer in production. I haven't been for about a year and a half. I do still do lead generation. That's very important. But all of the business that I generate is passed to my team. And that's been an evolving process. And I think that's one of that is part of leadership, because what became very obvious to us is we have these people that we're responsible for, right? We have agents who have entrusted us to work with us. We have staff members that we have hired that we're responsible to. And if my focus was only on my personal sales and they're the afterthought, that's not leading. And I
Uh,
think a lot, right. And I think a lot of agents, when they decide that they're going to start a team, that's kind of what they think, but that's not leading. And so we've learned that over time, and it's been a gradual process. Like, that didn't happen overnight. The challenges that I get, I mean, what I find that my team wants, is they want that, we were talking about community. They want that, they want to know that there's someone that they can talk to who's been there, or who's experienced it, or who understands, or isn't going to judge them, or is going to be able to really, a lot of times, it's listening to what the concern is. It's listening to what the challenge is, giving some advice. That's a lot of what we see and what we deal with on a daily basis. Some of it is very transaction specific. Our market is very interesting right now, like a lot of markets across the country. And so sometimes it's very, transaction specific. Sometimes it's just life, like just pretty much everyone on my team is a mom. And so, we all have these same challenges, which I think is what has made us as tight as we are. We have very little turnover. We have very high retention rate on our team. And it's because of that, because we get each other, and we support each other.
That's amazing. And what you touched on too is anybody who is a single agent who is wanting to then build a team. The fact that being an agent, the skill set that it takes to be a really good agent, it is a different skill set to be a leader.
Yes, 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 yes.
And so I think that is something a lot of times people underestimate is, well, I'm a really good agent and I've got a great admin, so it'll be awesome for me to take on some sales agents.
Yep.
And really understanding that those two roles are very different. So there needs to be an investment made in your leadership, right? Your leadership journey to becoming that leader that they need. And what it may grow into is letting go of that production.
That's right. And, there's a fascinating book that my business partner, Vicki, and I are both obsessed with right now. And it's called The E-Myth Revisited. I can't remember the name of the author right now, but it's funny because we avoided this book for years. We heard people talk about it all the time because we thought like E-Myth, we thought it meant like electronic, something like technology, but it's not. It's the entrepreneurial myth. It's a fascinating book. And he says exactly what you just said, which is that when we are a great technician, right? Like, I was a very good salesperson. She is a very good salesperson. But those skills, the technician skills that allows us to do the job, aren't the same skills that are going to allow us to lead other people to do the job. So, and I think a lot of us don't realize that, and we don't recognize that. And there's a shift, there's a transition that has to happen as you shift from that, being the top producer, being the actual in production agent, to shift to leading my team. It's very different.
It's like not every chef should own a restaurant.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So I think that's a big distinction. Yeah. Very big distinction. I'm glad that you mentioned that. E-Myth is another really, really good book. So, and I thought the same thing. I was like, it's E-Myth, whatever. Like, I don't have time to read whatever this E thing is, but no, it's entrepreneurship. So, so last question, what, you've got this fire going on, this flame that has probably been there from the time you were born, that just seems to keep you going. What would you say drives you?
Right now, I think what drives me is I'm driven to constantly improve. And if you had asked me before what drove me, I would probably have given you some kind of little pat answer, like financial freedom is what, or paying my bills, or because that was about survival. But really, what it is it's about learning and improving. And it really does. If I had stayed just as a sales agent, and there's nothing wrong with that, like, selling is a fantastic career, and you can do it for many, many years. for me, it wasn't right to do it many, many years. And what has kept me excited, I'm more excited today than I was 19 years ago, is because I have grown and evolved. I'm not doing the same thing constantly. The thing that we're focused on right now is my focus is on helping my team members to grow. My members last year averaged 8.1 million in volume each, and many did well more than that. Our goal this year is to help to push everyone to an average of 10 million or more. So that's, kind of my obsession right now. And so having something constantly that I'm striving towards is really what keeps me interested and excited.
Wow, that's amazing. And, cheers and thanks for all the work that you do and you pour into our industry to make women better and to give them a glimpse into what it takes to do this and believing in them that they absolutely can, because that's leaving a legacy. So
Well,
so
thank you. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
thank you so much. And I will see you on in Women Empowering Real Estate.
Okay. I would love it. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.